John felt trapped, not physically but mentally. It was as if his mind was a prison and he was the prisoner, unable to escape the relentless barrage of thoughts that consumed him daily. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, always analyzing, dissecting, and overthinking. Each thought led to another, creating an endless loop of mental chaos that he couldn't break free from. This constant mental chatter was exhausting. It drained his energy, leaving him feeling perpetually tired and worn out. No matter how much he tried to relax, his mind refused to quiet down. It was affecting his sleep, his work, and his relationships. Nights were spent tossing and turning, unable to find peace. Days were filled with frustration and a lack of focus, making even simple tasks seem insurmountable. He knew he had to do something. This couldn't go on. He needed to find a way to regain control over his mind and his life. The determination to change began to grow within him. John realized that his overthinking was a problem. It wasn't just a quirk of his personality, it was a significant issue that was impacting every aspect of his life. He needed to address it head on. It was like a dark cloud hanging over him, casting a shadow on everything he did. This metaphorical cloud followed him everywhere, making it hard to see the bright side of any situation. He knew he needed help, a way to quiet the storm in his head. He began researching online, looking for solutions, reading articles, and watching videos that promised relief from the constant mental noise. He yearned for peace, for a moment of silence within his own mind. The idea of meditation and mindfulness intrigued him, offering a glimmer of hope that he could find some respite from his thoughts. The problem was, John dreaded the thought of therapy. The idea of opening up to a stranger about his deepest fears and anxieties felt daunting and uncomfortable. He imagined himself lying on a couch, pouring his heart out to a stranger. It felt awkward, vulnerable. The thought of being judged or misunderstood made him hesitant to take that step. Plus, the cost of therapy was a major concern. He worried about the financial burden it would place on him, adding to his already mounting stress. He was already struggling financially. Bills were piling up and his income barely covered his basic needs. The thought of adding therapy to his expenses seemed impossible. But deep down, John knew that he couldn't continue living like this. He had to find a way to break free from the mental prison he was trapped in, no matter the cost. The idea of therapy brought a bitter taste to John's mouth. It wasn't just the potential awkwardness that bothered him. It was the financial burden. He was already juggling bills, rent, and student loans. Therapy felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. John often found himself lost in calculations. He'd meticulously track his spending, hoping to find some wiggle room in his budget. Maybe if he cut back on eating out, or perhaps cancelled that streaming subscription he barely used. But every time he thought he'd found a solution, another unexpected expense would pop up. He tried different budgeting apps, hoping technology could offer a magical solution. He diligently input his income and expenses, but the graphs and charts only seemed to amplify his anxiety. The numbers were a constant reminder of his financial limitations. The dream of therapy felt further away than ever. His financial struggles began to fuel his negative thoughts. The overthinking intensified, creating a vicious cycle. Doubts swirled in his mind. Was he good enough? Was he working hard enough? Was he destined to be stuck in this rut forever? John's mind became a breeding ground for negativity. He would replay past mistakes, imagining all the things he could have done differently. He would worry endlessly about the future, picturing worst-case scenarios in vivid detail. The negativity seeped into every aspect of his life. His relationships suffered as he withdrew from social gatherings, fearing judgment and awkward conversations. His work performance declined as his concentration wavered, his mind constantly preoccupied with anxieties. He felt like he was drowning in a sea of negativity with no life raft in sight. John's mind was a stage, and his thoughts were the actors, engaged in a relentless, chaotic performance. He was both the playwright and the audience, trapped in this never-ending play. He craved a director, someone to bring order to the chaos. Desperate for relief, John turned to the internet. He devoured self-help articles, hoping to find a quick fix for his overthinking. He stumbled upon countless articles with titles like 10 Ways to Stop Overthinking or How to Quiet Your Mind. Each one offered a glimmer of hope, but the advice often felt generic and impractical. Meditation was a recurring suggestion, but sitting still with his thoughts seemed impossible. His mind would race even faster, like a car stuck in neutral, its engine revving uncontrollably. John felt defeated. The internet, with its endless promises, had failed to deliver the solace he desperately sought. Section 5. Seeking Wisdom Online. John's quest for inner peace continued online. He delved into the world of YouTube, hoping to find solace in the experiences of others. He discovered channels dedicated to mindfulness, anxiety, and personal growth. He listened intently to experts sharing their insights, their voices filling his small apartment. He nodded along to their advice, feeling a surge of motivation and hope. But as soon as the videos ended, his own negative thoughts would come rushing back in, louder and more insistent than ever. John realized that simply consuming information wasn't enough. He needed to find a way to actively engage with his thoughts, to channel them in a productive direction. The constant influx of external advice, while well-intentioned, was only adding to the noise in his head. Section 6. A Storyteller's Spark. One evening, as John was replaying a particularly embarrassing childhood memory for the 1000th time, a thought struck him. What if, instead of letting these thoughts torment him, he could use them as material for stories? He had always enjoyed writing, finding solace in crafting fictional worlds and characters. He realized that his overthinking mind, while often a burden, could also be a source of endless creativity. He could take his negative thoughts, his anxieties, his fears, and transform them into compelling narratives. This realization was like a spark igniting a fire within him. He could use his experiences, his struggles, his unique perspective to connect with others through the power of storytelling. He could turn his pain into purpose, his overthinking into art. Section 7. The Writer's Resolve. John decided to focus his energy on screenwriting. He had always been fascinated by the magic of movies, the way they could transport you to another world, make you feel emotions you never thought possible. The idea of creating something that could have that kind of impact was incredibly appealing to him. The idea of seeing his words come to life on screen, of watching characters he created move and speak, was a dream he couldn't shake. He often found himself daydreaming about the stories he wanted to tell, the characters he wanted to bring to life. The thought of creating characters and worlds that would resonate with audiences, that would make them laugh, cry and think, filled him with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt before. It was as if he had finally found his calling. This newfound sense of purpose was invigorating. It gave him a reason to get up in the morning, a reason to keep pushing forward even when things got tough. He felt inspired in a way he never had before. He knew it wouldn't be easy. The path to becoming a successful screenwriter was fraught with challenges. There would be obstacles to overcome, setbacks to endure, but he was ready for it. Screenwriting was a competitive field filled with talented individuals all vying for the same opportunities. It required discipline, resilience, and a healthy dose of self-belief. But John was determined. He was ready to put in the work, to do whatever it took to succeed. He knew that discipline was key. He set a strict writing schedule for himself, dedicating several hours each day to his craft. He practiced resilience, reminding himself that every rejection was just a step closer to success. And he cultivated self-belief, telling himself that he had what it took to make it in this competitive field. He would use his overthinking to his advantage, to craft intricate plots, to develop relatable characters, to explore the complexities of the human experience. He spent hours brainstorming, sketching out plot diagrams, and creating detailed character profiles. He delved deep into his own thoughts and emotions, drawing from his own experiences to create stories that were authentic and relatable. He wanted his work to resonate with people, to make them feel seen and understood. He would turn his greatest weakness into his greatest strength. His tendency to overthink, which had often held him back in the past, would now be his greatest asset. It would allow him to create stories that were rich in detail and depth. He knew that his journey wouldn't be linear. There would be ups and downs, moments of triumph and moments of despair, but he was ready for it. He was ready to face whatever challenges came his way. There would be moments of doubt, times when he questioned whether he was on the right path. There would be times when the negativity threatened to overwhelm him, when he felt like giving up. But he was committed to this path. He knew that the only way to achieve his dreams was to keep pushing forward, no matter how difficult it got. He was determined to harness the power of his mind to create something meaningful. He would write not just to escape his own thoughts, but to connect with others, to entertain, to inspire. He wanted his work to have a positive impact on the world, to make a difference in people's lives. He believed in the power of storytelling, in its ability to bring people together, to foster understanding and empathy. He wanted to use his writing to create something beautiful, something that would stand the test of time. He would write not just to escape his own thoughts, but to connect with others, to entertain, to inspire. He wanted his work to have a positive impact on the world, to make a difference in people's lives. He wanted to connect with others through his writing, to share his stories with the world. He wanted to entertain people, to make them laugh and cry, to inspire them to follow their own dreams. He wanted to entertain, to inspire. He wanted to create something that would resonate with people, that would make them feel seen and understood. He wanted to make a difference in the world, one story at a time. Section 8, A New Beginning. Before putting pen to paper, John decided to seek guidance from a higher power. He felt a deep need to connect with something beyond himself, something that could provide the wisdom and strength he needed for the journey ahead. The small chapel, with its quiet serenity, seemed like the perfect place to find that connection. He bowed his head and prayed, asking for strength, for clarity, for the ability to use his gift for good. His words were simple, yet profound, a heartfelt plea for guidance. As he knelt there, he felt a warmth envelop him, as if the very light of the chapel was responding to his call. He knew he couldn't do this alone. The shadow of doubt had always loomed over him, but now he felt a presence, a larger figure guiding him. It was as if he was no longer just John, but part of something much greater. He needed faith, not just in himself, but in something greater. He placed his hands on his heart, feeling the steady beat that reminded him of his own resilience. The bright sky above seemed to open up, showering him with rays of light, filling him with a renewed sense of purpose. As he finished his prayer, a sense of calm washed over him. It was a peace that transcended understanding, a quiet assurance that he was on the right path. His smile was serene, his eyes closed in a moment of pure contentment. It wasn't the absence of thoughts, but a shift in perspective. The bright light around his head signified a transformation, a new way of seeing the world. His thoughts, once chaotic and overwhelming, were now like bubbles of light, each one a spark of inspiration. His thoughts were still there, but they no longer controlled him. He stood tall amidst the scattered thoughts, a figure of determination and resolve. Each thought was a piece of the puzzle, contributing to the larger picture of his journey. He was the captain of his ship now, navigating the choppy waters of his mind with newfound purpose. The stormy seas represented the challenges he faced, but with each wave he grew stronger, more determined to reach his destination. He opened his laptop, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. The blank screen was no longer intimidating, but a canvas waiting to be filled with his thoughts and ideas. He took a deep breath and began to type. Each keystroke was a step forward, a commitment to his new beginning. The words flowed from his mind to the screen, each one a testament to his journey. This was it, a fresh start. The words "a fresh start" appeared on the screen, symbolizing the new chapter he was about to write. It was more than just a beginning, it was a declaration of his intent to embrace the future with open arms. A chance to rewrite his story, one word at a time. With each word, he was not just telling a story, but living it, walking a path that was uniquely his. The book and pen were his tools, but his heart and mind were the true authors of this new beginning. Section 9, To Be Continued. John's journey to becoming a screenwriter was just beginning. He knew there would be challenges ahead, but he was ready to face them head-on, armed with his newfound purpose and a head full of stories waiting to be told. Will John overcome his overthinking and achieve his dream of becoming a successful screenwriter? Find out in part 2 of A Screenwriter's Journey, Overcoming Overthinking.